Good morning. I'm on early today. And tomorrow morning, I know we don't have worship in Sutton, so I'll most likely be coming to you live again tomorrow morning from here in my house as well, or maybe from in Fargo. We're gonna try to get to Fargo today for our Christmas with our family and stuff. Well, we look today at Genesis 31 and 32, and we've been reading the story of Jacob, and Jacob has been serving and working for Laban, his uncle, for 20 years now at this point in time. And Jacob has been overhearing his Laban's sons saying that Jacob has taken everything. He's taken advantage of our dad, and they say, he's taken all that was our father's, and from what was our father, he has required all of his wealth. And Jacob could see that in Laban that there wasn't there was a change in Laban's attitude toward Jacob that way. And in verse 3 it says, "The Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers and to your family, and I will be with you." And Jacob thinks about things, and he takes that word of the Lord seriously, and he calls his wives Rachel and Leah to the field with his flock, and he tells them all of this, what's going on, and he goes through the whole story of the 20 years that he's been working and living in this land with Laban, and how he had worked 7 years for the marriage of Leah, and then 7 more for Rachel, and just how Laban had continued to try to cheat him, with the deal with the speckled face or the line face cat, the black non-pure sheep and the flocks, and everything was going on, and so Rachel and Leah agree, and they depart, and they are going with their flocks, with their herds, with their children, and everything, and they've been on the road for 3 days before Laban is even aware that they're gone. And I mean, it seems strange to me that it would take that long a time for someone to notice and to say anything, but that's what was the Bible written here. And so when Laban finds out, he pursues Jacob, and it takes 7 days journey then for Laban to catch up and to have a conversation. And it starts out in verse 26 of chapter 31. "What have you done? You've stolen away unknown and carried away my daughters like captives taken with the sword." And unbeknownst to Jacob or anyone else, Rachel had taken her father's gods, statues, gods, and had stolen them. And Laban, of course, is upset by that, and he searches everywhere for these gods. But Rachel has them in the saddlebags of the camel that she's on, and she tells him, "Well, I'm at that time of the month, and I just can't get up right now." So they don't find Laban's gods, but Laban and Jacob come to a treaty, a covenant, a promise to each other, and they set up a stone as a pillar, and then it's so Jacob took one stone and set it up, and then said to the others, "Gather stones," and they took stones and they made a heap, and this place was named, different names by different people, but it ends up, it's called Gilead and Mitzpah, and because this is where the covenant was made. And Jacob made a sacrifice then, and they ate and stayed all night on the mountain. And early in the morning, as chapter 31 ends, Laban arose, kissed his sons and daughters, and blessed them. And Laban departed and returned back home. And Jacob is now getting closer to home, and his brother Esau. And this time we've been reading about Jacob and everything, and the success he's having, we kind of maybe have forgotten of why Jacob left home to begin with. And so when he's getting closer to coming home and worried about what kind of greeting Esau is going to have, because the last thing he knew was, excuse me, that Esau had sworn to kill him. There was great animosity there because of the stolen birthright, the stolen blessing, and Jacob had no reason to expect that Esau would welcome him at all. What he was worried about that. So when it got closer to home and word came that Esau was coming, or Jacob had sent messengers ahead, and then they come back and they say that Esau is coming with 400 men, and Jacob is rightfully so, I think, worried about what's going to happen now, and he splits his people into two groups so that if Esau's men attack one group, that hopefully the other group can escape. But when Esau comes, we don't get to that point today. I don't get ahead of myself, but so Jacob has camp set up, and he positions himself toward the back of the camp. I shouldn't, and so that he isn't going to end up meeting Esau face to face right up front and out in the open. We don't hear that today either, for sure. But the night before this meeting of Esau and Jacob is when Jacob wrestles with God, and it's in a dream. He's sleeping, and at verse 22, he arose that night and took his wives and female servants and sent them over the brook, and Jacob was left alone, it says, on the one side of the brook. And a man, a capital M in my Bible, a man wrestled with him, and until the breaking of day. And it says when he saw that he, and these words he are capitalized, so that refers to the man who is God himself, as we come to believe and trust. The man sees that he hasn't been prevailing against Jacob, and so it's been an ongoing battle, and I think about this battle as sometimes how we wrestle with decisions, how we try to figure out what to do and how to do it and stuff. But Jacob was wrestling, and he wrestled all night with him, and at daybreak, as the day was about to break, he, the man, says to Jacob, let me go. And Jacob replies, I will not let you go unless you bless me. And so this is where Jacob now becomes Israel. Your name shall no longer be called Jacob, God says in verse 28, but Israel, for you have struggled with God and with men and have prevailed. And he blesses Jacob, and Jacob then calls this place Peniel, because it says, I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. And as he crossed over Penuel, the river, the sun rose on him, and he limped on his hip, it says, because his hip had been put out of place in this wrestling match. And so we see, Jacob looking out for himself, how the troubles come in his life, and sometimes we think that like for these people of the Bible, these heroes of the Bible, as we sometimes think about them, examples of the Bible, that life was always good for them, but it was full of trials and pitfalls, and as I said, Jacob was a liar and a cheat, and but yet God finds a way to use him, and we see so many things that happen to them and in their lives, and we see the way that they realize that God is with them in all things, and again this wrestling with God that Jacob did, I truly think it's a way of reminding us too that when we face those big decisions, when those hard things in life come, that we struggle to make decisions, that, when we ask God's leadership and God's guidance and God's blessing on things, that they always go better. And so we, as we journey through this history of the Israelites, and now, with Jacob now being named Israel, we remember that this is where the people of Israel and the country of Israel yet today gets its name, and that Israel, the land, and the people are people of God.